What is up, my Squirtleites? It is I, your king, welcoming you back to more Let's Play Destiny. In the last episode, we rescued Kali, we rescued Shuro-Chi, and we took down Morgeth, the Spire Keeper. With all of Riven's guards defeated, now we just need to open the door. So it's time to head to the vault and get that thing open. But before we do that, let's talk about the dialogue that's been permeating throughout the raid up to this point. You've been seeing it in the captions down below. I've been talking over it for the most part, but that's because it's a lot of the same stuff you'll hear every single time you go through the raid, but usually in a different voice from a different character. A lot of times it's characters we recognize, but sometimes it's characters we know about in the lore, but we don't really recognize all that well. All of that is to obviously trick us just a little bit more into thinking it might actually be legitimate. Now, it's all Riven. Every single one of these voices is Riven trying to manipulate us further. And at the same time, she knows we're smart enough to press on, but she's trying to plant seeds, if that makes sense. She's not going to outright use Ikora's voice to, like, tell us to turn back or whatever. She knows we're not that dumb. Instead, she's just trying to essentially taunt us. She's trying to get us to sort of fall into a lot of her traps before, well, she ends up dealing with us herself. But now we have to get into the vault, and this is going to be a reintroduction to the symbol mechanics, which we really saw in the first encounter, saw a little bit in the second encounter, and didn't see at all in the last encounter. Okay, so this is where symbol reading is actually going to get very important. So see how I have three symbols there? I got those, what essentially is the yin and yang fish, a dragon with a spear upward, and then a fish that is kind of curled in like a shrimp. Okay, so how you read these symbols really doesn't matter. What does matter is how you're able to relay that information to other people. So in this encounter in particular, there are three groups of two, and you've got the symbol readers, who are essentially the guardians of their plate, and then you've got the runners, okay? The runner is going to be whoever is not standing on the plate, and their entire job is to really kill every single thing in this room, but also to use the information that is relayed to then carry buffs to other parts of the room, because at all times, one room is open and the other two are locked, but as things continue, the room will shift and different parts will open, thus allowing people access to different areas. So like my helper who just went in there now needs to go to the room that just opened so that they can get out again. And this is just a constant cycle that's going to repeat over and over throughout the raid, but all the while we need to keep the most dangerous enemies off of this plate. There are particular enemies that are going to absolutely wreck shop, or actually just end up straight up ruin the entire encounter if they get there in time. So it's just a constant game of cat and mouse, constant game of relaying information and also protecting your plates. Just a little bit of tower defense in there. So these guys right here, these are the guys you do not want touching your plate at any time, otherwise they are going to reset parts of the encounter, and you're on a time limit here. See that vault security mechanism? Once that counts all the way down, it kills everybody in the room, and you got to start all over, and this is just kind of an endurance encounter. So we're constantly, again, moving back and forth, relaying information, telling us what's open, where to go, etc., because there are these little pathways on the outside that connect all of the rooms to each other. Now, as far as reading that information is concerned, so, for instance, the three symbols that I had pop up, the two different ones with the fish and then the one with the dragon, I am supposed to relay where my symbols are positioned, and then as soon as, it's kind of like Go Fish almost. As soon as I say one of those symbols, another person on either of the other ones needs to then say, oh, hey, I have that symbol in the middle of my section. And so then that means that, that then correlates to where everything in the room is going to change. So you've got two terms. You've got penumbra and antumbra. Everything penumbra is to the left of whatever you're talking about. Everything antumbra is to the right. Let me explain. If, for instance, my symbol on the right side happens to line up with the middle symbol of somebody else, then that makes me antumbra. If my left symbol happens to match up with somebody whose middle symbol, then that makes that symbol penumbra. There are also a lot of red herring symbols that you will see throughout these, where really you've only got one symbol on each that matches up, if that makes sense. So you can't be too distracted by the red herring symbols. You only look for the matches. Once you know what these symbols mean, that's when you're then going to relay that information to the buff carriers, essentially. So what they're going to do is they're going to kill a bunch of enemies in their room, and eventually they're going to pick up a buff. That buff is then going to tell them if they've got antumbra or penumbra, and if that plate is assigned with Antumbra or Penumbra, they need to dunk the buff on the correct plate, otherwise they lose. Now you can see we have reset the vault security mechanism timer, and thus goes another round of this, and so we continue. It's just a lot of activity where everybody's involved, but in a way that I wouldn't really call high pressure, but it's definitely active. It's definitely something where you need to be present. Everyone has a job here, and I love that. I love it when raids are actually able to give everybody a responsibility. Now, if these enemies were a bit beefier and had a bit more health, this encounter would get really intense. In fact, I already know it does because I have done this encounter on higher difficulties, and holy crap, it actually is one of the toughest encounters in the entire freaking raid. Honestly, second only to the one encounter that, well, is very exploited, but we'll get into that one a little bit later in the video. And actually, in fact, not too long from now, unfortunately, because I do have to talk about it, even though I don't want to talk about it because I wish we could show this the legitimate way, but like I said, I have been unable to get together a group that is willing to do that. If that ever happens someday in the very, very far future, I will show you a completely legitimate clear of that encounter, and I will explain the entire thing to you, because it is a wonderful, wonderful fight. But yeah, so we're about done here. The vault security mechanism is counting down once more. There's 3 locks on this door that we need to get down all the way. That was me basically just saying like, hey, we need to kill this thing before the mechanism goes down. I think we had a straggler here at this point, which can show how things can get kind of intense if you sort of mess this up. So y'all need to kind of be on your A game, but eventually if they can get there in time and dunk it, we should be good. Yep, just in time. So there goes the last lock. And now we move on to the next part, and it all resets again. So we're back up to 3 minutes, and there we go. I think at that point, like, our entire group had, like, resigned that this wasn't going to be saved, and I think someone said, nope, we got it. I'm pretty sure there was, like, a fatal error made in there somewhere, which is very easy to do. If you take the wrong path or you grab the wrong buff and dunk it in the wrong place, that really sets you back a lot. Like, as long as you're on pace, you'll have this with more than a minute to spare almost every single time. But if you ever make one of those mistakes, that can cost you a lot of time. In fact, sometimes just one wrong dunk can completely cost the entire encounter. So it's really just about being diligent and paying attention. That's really all you have to do. It's really not that difficult to kill everything in here as long as you got, like, well, as you've seen with me, a good shotgun. In fact, I think what the shotgun I'm using in this is totally overkill and unnecessary for this part. I could be using a machine gun. I mean, I'm literally not even using a heavy that's relevant to this encounter at all because I didn't even feel a need to do so. So if you brought like a machine gun or something like that, that's pretty darn easy too. Like I said, it's super easy. Crowd control and all that. It's not that bad, but you take them all out, and eventually we've got this done. Also, the music in here, too. I love the music in this raid, but none of it holds a candle to the song that plays when we battle Riven herself. Okay, let's get on to that subject now, because I'm going to need to talk about it now, starting now, otherwise, well, I won't have the entire explanation done before we are through the next encounter. So Riven is next, believe it or not. She is going to be the final fight, and, well, not the final fight. She is going to be the penultimate encounter, but not the final encounter, if that makes sense. Riven is next, and Riven's encounter is a very complicated sequence of events where you're supposed to split up into 2 teams of 3, and you are supposed to relay information to opposite parts of the room while constantly stun-locking Riven. She is able to do things like slam tentacles on the ground, or possibly cause this crazy breath attack with her mouth that can do all manner of things that can disrupt the raid. And there's a lot of information that you need to relay because Riven's got eyes. She's got a lot of eyes on her face, and these eyes are very important to prolonging the fight. If the eyes themselves are not dealt with, Riven will wipe the fight, but eyes can only be dealt damage to by the opposite group that can, from the one that can actually see which eyes are necessary to defeat. So it's all about communication. You need to be able to relay that information properly. This is very complex and requires a lot of know-how by people, which was incredibly necessary back when this raid came out. Nowadays, nobody does this. Nobody. You want to know why? Because if you get lucky, you pile all 6 of your fire team members into the right room, the same room where Riven is actually doing her breath attack as opposed to her other attacks, and you can say hi to her there as we descend down, we can actually kill her straight away. All at once, or at the very least get her down to her final stand. So this is how 95% of people do this encounter. They take the 50-50, because yes, it is a 50% chance you get this right. They take the 50-50, they run into a specified room, and then once they run in, the doors lock. Once that happens, you just gotta hope that Riven comes through the right way. If she takes too long to come through, then the encounter fails and you just wipe and you try this again. To a lot of people, this is still absolutely worth the headache because it's better than trying to do the actual encounter mechanics the way that they're meant to be done, because that is a lot more stressful, has a lot more margin for error, and just straight up takes a lot longer unless you get unlucky on the 50-50 like 6 times in a row. So you get through, you come through the room, and eventually you are going to see Riven pop out here into the room. That is when things are going to get crazy. So give it a few more seconds. She should be here any moment now. And as soon as she pops through, the best weapon to use in this right here is a machine gun, which we are actually going to be talking about a little bit later on in a different part of the Let's Play. But there are other weapons that also achieve the same effect, as well as other abilities. So eventually, when she gets through, and I can see right now on the waveform that it's going to be happening in just a second. There she is. You say hi to Riven, and what you do is you just beat the crap out of her mouth. Make sure you don't accidentally shoot the eyes, but do all this damage, and look at that health bar go. Look at that health bar go, and if you can get to the final stand before the wipe encounter happens, there you go. Riven retreats, and now we get sucked into the realm. All right, so this is a bit of a platforming part. You're going to have a lot of things trying to knock you off. You're going to have Taken Boopers, a lot of phalanxes that are going to be doing everything in their power to stop you from reaching the top where Riven waits. She is on the tower right now, trying to basically just recover, but we got to get all the way up to her and essentially put a stop to this whole manipulation in the plane. Get out alive, and that way we can all do damage to her one last time in the final stand. Like I said, this is not necessarily something that is meant to be done with a group of 6. You're supposed to be split into groups of 3, so you wouldn't be able to do this kind of damage normally, which is why this is so exploitable. But again, because of the raid mechanics, because of the nature of the mechanics, it's not really something. I mean, it's a risk a lot of people are willing to take, and it's not really something that can be, again, fixed by Bungie so easily. So, unfortunately, that is the way that Riven is normally killed by Destiny players, and has been for pretty much the entirety of this raid's existence. But we are not done yet. There is one more part to this raid, and this encounter is freaking cool too. See, Riven, with all of her power, is more than just an Ahamkara. Even her heart is dangerous. And so we need to get this heart out of here by taking something that is known as the Queen's Walk. This is going to involve us going all the way through the way that we just came, pretty much all the way back to just before where we fought Morgeth. So the room that's like right after Morgeth, we need to walk all the way back there with this heart. Each fire team member is chosen at random. So to start this encounter, I was actually chosen first, which means that I'm going to mostly be explaining what happens after you have the heart. So once you have been chosen, you are eventually going to be sucked into the heart once the timer runs out. And you want to make sure that none of your fire team members are around you when that happens, or they will be pulled in with you too. You are trying to maximize the distance that you can carry the heart as much as you possibly can. You have the timer, but what you're supposed to do is eventually, after you have you want to basically grab these little, I guess they're just debuffs, but you want to grab those because what happens is as soon as you do that, it resets the timer, but you want to grab it as low on the timer as you possibly can to reset it as late as you possibly can. So whoever is holding their heart is going to be counting down 3, 2, 1, and you want to pick that buff up right when it hits to 1. But as more people enter the heart, more of these buffs will become pick-upable. So now there's 2 here with the 2 of us in here. So they're going to grab the first one straight away, and I'm going to have the responsibility of waiting for the countdown before I grab the next one. 2 people cannot grab these buffs, otherwise they will die, so it needs to go to a different person. Now, a person dying is a really bad thing because they are going to be resurrected inside of the heart after the fact, which means that they have joined us even though they haven't been able to contribute to the run. But for all intents and purposes, you can make this with 5 people. If you lose more than that, then you're probably not going to make it in time. But they are just constantly running back, dealing with enemies up there that are trying to kill them, while whoever is left is defending the heart carrier all the way. And like I said, each time a random person is chosen to then pick up that heart. Only they are allowed to. So they need to be standing in a strategic position kind of behind the heart carrier, or at least very close to them, where they're able to pick it up very quickly, but also not get sucked in once the heart actually finishes with the person that is chosen, once that timer fully counts down. So we're, again, maximizing this all the way. If you actually look up at the very top of this area, you will actually see hands that are holding the heart. And right there, you can hear that our last person is getting very, very close, thanks to the dialogue from Kali. Once they get all the way to the end where they can meet Kali and Shirochi, they will dunk the heart, and the raid is done.
Architect of this city, return to us for the sake of plans to come. It is done. We will meet you on the other side.
And Riven has been sealed. The last Ahamkara has finally and truly been defeated. Collect your loot and call it a raid. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so very much for watching this episode of Let's Play Destiny. I hope you all enjoyed it very, very much. And I hope you enjoyed this very first look at Destiny 2 raiding. We have a whole lot more to go through in the future, so stay tuned. But yeah, this was just kind of a taste of things to come, but in a lot of ways was kind of one of the best raids that Destiny has to offer. So yeah, thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.
My queen commanded me to slay a beast. We could not do it alone, so I turned to the Guardians. 6 brave heroes came to destroy my people's greatest secret. Riven, the last known Ahamkara, a creature of immense power and cunning. The Guardians killed Riven and ripped out her heart. But Ahamkara transcend death. They can transform desire into reality, even when they are nothing but bone and dust. I should have known that Riven would grant one last wish, one last curse. Now the Dreaming City has been taken. I opened the gates. I ordered the attack. I should have known.